War, chaos, turmoil, and revolt marked the second half of the 14th century. A demographic disaster wiped out tens of millions of Europeans in a mere 2 years via the plague. Imagine 1/3 to half of the people you've known or seen die in 2 years. During the middle of the 14th century, people thought the world was going to end. The plague attacked the young and old alike, yet it did its greatest destruction in attacking the 20 to 30-year-old age group, horribly reducing the population of the childbearing demographic from reproducing and rebuilding the decimated population. This set off an economic depression for roughly 100 years. The economic collapse was set in motion by the disruption of agricultural production as the number of peasants who worked the land were decimated. Many of the peasants who worked the land and were not yet dead stopped showing up to work because they might die very soon. Remember, the world in their mind is quite likely ending soon. As populations collapse, demand collapses, thus causing a collapse in prices. This caused a collapse in profits for the wealthy landowners in the 14th century. Many wealthy landowners go bankrupt as there were less peasants to work the field. Those who remain demand higher wages. After all, food is still needed and there are less of us to work your field, they say, not to mention the high risk of death. So peasants demand higher wages, yet their formerly wealthy employers are losing money as prices and profits are down. The landowners who aren't yet bankrupt go to governments and ask them to put a cap on wages so they can pay peasants the much lower amount they received before the plague. Governments, in an attempt to stabilize the economy, obliged the request of the landowners, capping peasant wages at a time when peasants were suffering at least as much as anyone. This act of capping peasant wages sets off a chain of huge peasant revolts and rebellions in England, France, Italy, and across all parts of Europe. The most famous of which, the Ciompi Revolt, in which the peasants took over Florence and ruled the city for 2 years, started in 1378. Peasant revolts were only the beginning. As they waged bloody conflict with landowners, the conflict spread to warfare amongst the nobles, pitting powerful families against one another, in addition to multi-generation long wars between kingdoms, such as the 100 Years' War. These revolts start when the government freeze on wages puts a stop to the first time in European history when the common person could make a better living to improve their quality of life.